I'm Marcus, 32 years old, and if you asked anyone in my family to describe me, they'd probably say I'm the quiet one. Not in a thoughtful, mysterious kind of way, just the one who never causes trouble, never raises his voice, and never really takes up space. My mom has this habit of calling me the helper, like I'm some kind of household utility. She says it with this half smile, like she's proud, but there's always something dismissive in her tone, like she's describing a coffee table that's been around forever. Useful, familiar, and easy to forget unless it's in the way. I wasn't the golden child. That role belonged to my younger sister, Melanie, the professional attention magnet who could blink at a camera and end up on the cover of the family Christmas card. Then there was my older brother, Jared, charismatic, loud, always had a story, and never once paid for his own beer. Me? I work in data analysis, live alone, no kids, no drama, just a well-organized fridge and a decent credit score. This story starts a couple months ago when my cousin Emily got engaged. Now, I'm not particularly close with Emily. She once referred to me as the one who works with numbers or computers or something, but she sent me an invite to her engagement dinner at a high-end downtown restaurant. My name was on the email list, under +1, optional if you can find someone. Classic Emily. Still, I RSVP'd yes. Part of me thought maybe things would be different. My parents would be there, Jared and Melanie too, along with a handful of aunts, uncles, and assorted cousins. I hadn't seen most of them in months. I figured showing up was the polite thing to do. I even wore the navy blazer my ex used to say made me look like a CEO in training. When I arrived, I noticed immediately that everyone was already seated. Well, not everyone. There was one empty seat left. It was a small, uneven bar stool tucked between the restroom door and the staff kitchen. The kind of spot where the light flickers, the air smells faintly of industrial soap, and waiters keep brushing your back with trays. My mom spotted me and waved. "Marcus, over here," she called, then added in that loud stage whisper she uses when she wants to seem like she's just joking, but isn't. "Sit there. It's closer to the exit. That way you don't ruin any photos." A few heads turned. My sister giggled behind her wine glass. Jared smirked. My dad kept chewing without looking up. I stood there for a moment, silently absorbing it all. Then I walked over, pulled out the stool, and sat without a word. I folded my napkin slowly, smiled at the waiter, tried to will the heat in my cheeks to cool. Throughout dinner, I barely spoke. I just listened as the conversation floated around me, wedding plans, baby announcements, stories from Jared's latest Cancun trip. When I tried to chime in about a recent project I was proud of, a predictive model I designed for a major logistics company, Melanie blinked and said, "Wow, that sounds complicated." And just like that, the subject shifted to Jared's new tattoo. Again, at one point, a family friend raised a toast to Emily and her fiancé. Glasses clinked. My chair wobbled. I felt like furniture, just something to lean on. I watched as Jared ordered 2 rounds of drinks for the table. My dad requested the chef's special without checking the price. My mom asked the waiter to box up 3 extra desserts to take home for later. Then the check came. A slick black folder placed neatly in the middle of the table. The waiter paused, then, after an awkward beat, set it directly in front of me. Everyone went quiet. I looked up slowly. Melanie blinked. Jared stared at his phone. My mom cleared her throat and said, "You don't mind, do you? You're always so responsible with money." I just leaned back in my unstable little stool and said calmly, "Don't worry, I wouldn't dare ruin the symmetry of your check, either." Then I stood up. No one moved. I heard Melanie hiss, "What does that even mean?" under her breath. Jared finally looked up and muttered, "Dude, chill." But I was already walking toward the door. I didn't say goodbye, didn't look back, just stepped out into the cool evening air, the sounds of muffled arguments beginning to bubble behind me. It wasn't the first time something like this had happened, not even close. But something about that moment, about the silence, the expectation, the way no one even questioned whether I should pay for everyone, it hit different. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt something shift. Not anger exactly, not even sadness, just a quiet, measured finality. Like flipping the last page in a book you've been reading out of obligation for years. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I walked 2 blocks down to a small 24-hour diner that smelled like burnt coffee and pancake syrup. The kind of place that didn't care who you were or what you were wearing, just that you wanted a booth and maybe a refill or 2. I sat in the corner, ordered a black coffee, and opened my phone. There were already messages. Mom texted in the family group chat. That was rude, Marcus. You could have at least offered. Jared texted, real classy, man. Leaving us hanging like that in public. Melanie texted, don't be so dramatic. It was one dinner. And then, nothing. No one apologized. No one said they understood. Just a quiet expectation that, once again, I would be the helper. The easy one. The one they could poke fun at, lean on, and ignore in the same breath. I stared at the screen for a few minutes. Then I opened my banking app and stared at something else, a healthy savings account, carefully built over the last 10 years. While Jared was taking vacations he couldn't afford and Melanie was posting unboxing hauls from luxury brands she couldn't pronounce, I had been building something stable. Quietly. Alone. But maybe it was time to stop being so quiet. The next morning, I started pulling threads. First, I called my credit card company and removed Jared as an authorized user. That was a favor I'd agreed to 3 years ago, back when he just needed a temporary boost to his score. He'd racked up thousands in streaming services, takeout, and bar tabs, but always said he was figuring it out. My name was on the line. Not anymore. Then I logged into the family Netflix account. Guess whose name was on the billing profile? Mine. So I changed the password. Then the Disney Plus, Spotify family plan, the shared Amazon Prime. One by one, I reclaimed the things they had casually assumed belonged to everyone, when really, they belonged to me. Next came the big one. See, about a year ago, after a lot of pleading from my parents, I'd agreed to co-sign on a small business loan they were taking out to expand my dad's landscaping company. The bank wouldn't approve them a loan, bad credit, spotty income, but with my signature, it went through. I didn't even get a thank you card. That loan was still in its early stages, and I remembered the clause that allowed a co-signer to initiate a liability review in the first 12 months. It was rare, buried in fine print, but technically legal if fraud or misrepresentation could be shown. So I hired a lawyer. It wasn't even about destroying their credit or bankrupting the business. I didn't want revenge, not in the fire and brimstone sense. What I wanted was distance. Legal, financial, emotional. A clean break. Meanwhile, the texts kept coming. Mom texted, this is your father's dream. Don't ruin it over a dinner check. Melanie texted, are you seriously cutting us off over one bad joke? Jared texted, you're being a little girl about this. Grow up. But the best one came 2 days later, when I got a voicemail from Emily, the bride-to-be. Hey Marcus. So, I heard things got tense at the dinner. I just wanted to reach out and let you know that we're finalizing the wedding guest list, and unfortunately, space is super limited. So we're gonna have to skip your invite. Hope you understand. Click. No rage. No shock. Just clarity. That was the final push I needed. I opened a private browser window and started looking up something I'd quietly dreamed of doing for years, moving. A real move. Not just to another neighborhood, but another state. Maybe even out of the country. Somewhere I didn't have to play the background character in someone else's story. Somewhere I could just be. Marcus. Later that week, I sent one final message to the family group chat. No threats. No explanations. Just, please remove me from any future financial obligations or shared accounts. All access has been revoked. I wish you the best moving forward. Melanie left a thumbs down emoji. Jared replied, LOL okay. My mom didn't respond at all. I waited. That Friday, my dad called. I let it ring out. Then he texted me, can we talk about the loan thing? It's urgent. Then Jared called. Then Melanie. By the time Monday rolled around, I had 17 missed calls and 4 emails with subject lines like family emergency, please call, and we need to resolve this ASAP. But I was already 3 states away, sipping a hotel coffee and watching the sunrise from a balcony I'd paid for with my own money, with zero guilt. For the first time in a long time, I felt light. They weren't just mad. They were scared. And the best part? I hadn't even played my final card yet. I spent the next 2 weeks in Asheville, North Carolina. It was supposed to be a pit stop, a breather before I figured out my next move, but the crisp mountain air and quiet pace suited me. The silence from my family didn't last long. It started with guilt. Mom texted, I just don't understand why you're punishing all of us. We love you, Marcus. Families argue. It doesn't mean you run away. Then it turned manipulative. Melanie texted, I hope you're happy. Dad's losing sleep over this. Jared's credit score dropped. And don't even get me started on Mom, she's sick with worry. And finally, when none of that worked, came the fury. Jared texted, You seriously think you're better than us now? You think money makes you important? You're just a bitter little worm who got lucky with a boring desk job. That one actually made me laugh. It was so on brand, so cartoonishly predictable, I nearly spilled my coffee. Meanwhile, the fallout was growing behind the scenes. Remember the business loan I co-signed? My lawyer had uncovered that they had misrepresented their projected income and fabricated some invoice totals. That alone didn't trigger legal action, but it did flag the loan for reassessment. When the bank caught wind, they initiated a formal review and froze access to the remaining funds until it was sorted out. That meant the renovation project they'd started, new trucks, new office space, some flashy landscaping equipment, was now half-finished and hemorrhaging cash. My dad had tied up their savings into the expansion. Without access to the full loan, they were in trouble. I knew all of this because one of my cousins, Erica, had quietly reached out. She wasn't part of the engagement dinner drama. She'd been traveling for work, but heard the stories flying around the family group chats. She called me one night and said, "Okay, I've stayed out of it long enough. What actually happened, Marcus? Because they're making it sound like you went full villain." So I told her everything. Not in a rant. Not with anger. Just facts. What they said. What they did. How they treated me like a wallet with ears. How, after years of being their backup plan, I finally said no. There was a long silence on the line. Then she said, quietly, "I believe you. And I'm sorry I wasn't there." We talked for an hour. It was the first real conversation I'd had with a family member in months that didn't leave me feeling smaller. When we hung up, I didn't cry. But I did stare at the ceiling for a long time and let myself feel something I hadn't felt in years. Seen. Then came the wedding. Emily's. Despite the earlier uninvite, I still received the occasional forwarded email from my mom's Gmail. Final details, registry links, updated seating charts. I guess no one had thought to remove me manually. That's how I found out Jared was giving a toast, Melanie was a bridesmaid, and my dad was covering the photographer's premium package. And that's when I decided to make one last move. A quiet one. Strategic. See, Emily's fiancé, Brian, works in marketing at a mid-sized tech company. He's ambitious, loud, and, as I recently discovered through some light LinkedIn digging, also applying for a new job. At my company. In fact, he was 2 rounds into the interview process for a position just 2 teams over from mine. Funny how the universe plays its cards. Now, I had no intention of sabotaging his chances. I didn't need to, but I did make a point to mention it in a call with HR. Not as gossip, as due diligence. "Hey," I said, casually, "saw Brian Jenkins is in final rounds. Just FYI, we've crossed paths socially. Nothing serious, just a family connection. He might know me as the quiet one. But you know, full disclosure and all that." HR thanked me and noted it. That was it. No drama. No need to push. But it meant they'd dig. And what they'd find, especially the way his name showed up on some of Jared's more colorful social media posts, might just make them pause. Especially the one from earlier that week, where Jared posted a blurry photo of me from a wedding years ago with the caption, "This clown dipped on the bill and torched the family loan." Guess some people were born to be disappointments. Tagged. Melanie, Emily, Brian. Public. No filter. I didn't have to lift a finger. Back in Asheville, I finally signed the lease on a small but modern apartment overlooking the river. Clean walls, quiet neighbors, and just enough space to stretch out and think. I moved in 2 days before the wedding. On the morning of the ceremony, I woke up to 15 missed calls. Then came the text from Erica, "You're not going to believe what just happened at the reception." And as I opened the message and read what she'd written, I smiled. Not a cruel smile. Not a gloating one. Just the kind that comes when the scales finally start to balance themselves. The message from Erica was short, frantic, and glorious. Brian got pulled out of the wedding an hour before the ceremony. Some woman from his company, like HR or something, showed up and asked to speak with him privately. Next thing I know, he's on the phone pacing like crazy, sweating through his shirt. Emily's mom said they were having a professional misunderstanding. But girl. Emily lost it. She screamed, threw her bouquet at him in front of the makeup team, and locked herself in the bridal suite. They're stalling the guests with extra champagne. Jared's trying to calm things down, but you know how that goes. I almost dropped my coffee mug. Not out of shock, but from the sheer poetic symmetry. I sat down at my kitchen table, reread the message 3 times, and just laughed. A quiet, full-body laugh that came not from revenge, but from relief. I didn't ruin Emily's wedding. I didn't sabotage Brian's job. I simply removed myself from the picture and let their own dysfunction fill the void I left. It turns out Brian hadn't disclosed some important things on his job application, like his history of using work resources for personal projects, one of which included creating wedding promo content for Emily's growing influencer platform during office hours. Worse, his social media footprint, courtesy of Jared's foolish posts, had started raising questions internally. According to Erica's follow-up texts, HR had flagged the situation and wanted clarification immediately before moving forward with his offer. Timing, as they say, is everything. But the wedding still went ahead. Sort of. 2 hours behind schedule, the ceremony finally began. Emily had calmed down enough to walk down the aisle, but according to Erica, who had full maid of honor-level gossip access, her eyes were red, and she didn't smile once during her vows. The photographer had to keep reminding her to look happy. Brian was visibly shaken, whispering aggressively to Jared during the processional. At one point, he actually dropped the ring. Not even joking. Afterward, the reception limped along. My parents were there, of course, sitting front and center, pretending like nothing was wrong. My mom wore a forced smile so tight it looked Botoxed. My dad apparently kept glancing at the exits, like he was expecting someone to crash the party. No one did. But I did post a photo that evening. Nothing dramatic, just me in my new apartment, holding a cup of coffee, a stack of books beside me, and the Asheville skyline in the background. The caption was simple. Sometimes peace looks like a one-bedroom and a locked door. I tagged no one. Said nothing else. Within an hour, Melanie liked it. Then unliked it. Then liked it again. The week after the wedding, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a small envelope, the kind used for fancy invitations. Inside that was a handwritten note. I'm sorry. I get it now. No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. It was Emily's. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Over the next few weeks, the messages slowed. My mom tried once more, this time softer. I miss you. Things haven't been the same. But I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because the weight of those words no longer meant what she thought they did. Missing me only mattered if they ever truly saw me in the first place. Jared went quiet after that. Maybe someone finally pointed out that publicly insulting the guy who used to pay your credit card wasn't the smartest move. Or maybe he finally realized I wasn't coming back. Melanie, surprisingly, reached out 2 months later with a photo of a broken lamp and a short message. Okay, I get why you blocked us from the Prime account. Just tell me where you got this lamp. I love it. I sent her a link. That was it. No further conversation. Just a clean, civil exchange between two adults who had learned how to keep their distance. As for my parents, well, I heard through Erica that they were struggling with the business. Turns out, without the full loan and with several payments already overdue, they had to downsize. My dad sold off 2 trucks. My mom stopped her weekly salon visits. The expansion plans were shelved indefinitely. But they survived. They always do. People like them, people who think the world owes them just for existing, don't collapse in a single dramatic explosion. They erode. Slowly. Quietly. Until one day, they turn around, and all the people who used to hold them up are just gone. And me? I'm still in Asheville. I picked up hiking. Got into photography. There's a bookstore around the corner that hosts open mic nights, and I've even read a few essays there, stories about boundaries, about choosing yourself, about the quiet power of walking away. No one in the audience knows they're about my family. No one has to. A few weeks ago, a woman approached me afterward and said, "That one about the restaurant, that hit. I've been that person at the table." I smiled and just said, "Yeah, me too." And that's the thing. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to flip the table or scream or make a scene. All I had to do was leave the table and let them pay the bill themselves.